Okay, guys, welcome back. This is Vodcast 8C. And real quick, before we do this vodcast, Coach Forster, we need to introduce this little style of note-taking that we're doing here. This is something we do a little bit in the second semester. It works really nicely for some of the concepts we're going to be going over. And so basically, as we go through our PowerPoint on this, each slide is going to be labeled like each of these four big boxes that you have here. And so what's on our slide basically goes in your box. So you may need to pause at times to get everything, because we may not leave you quite enough time to write everything. So this may be a good chance for you to pause, get everything down, and then really listen and absorb what we're saying versus just frantically writing and not really hearing what we're saying. I think you'll find a big difference in how much you understand
the material after that.
The material when you're doing it that way. So I would pause, get everything written down in your box, and then go back really and watch and just listen to us. And you'll probably pick things up a little better than in the past. So there's really going to be 4 slides on our PowerPoint, and those things will just go into your 4 boxes.
4 boxes.
Okay?
Yep.
So we'll start up here and looking at balancing reactions now. So we've talked about writing them. We'll look at balancing. And so a couple definitions to look at here. So you may want to pause at this time
and
kind of get this stuff on your paper, and then come back and let us talk about them with you. But this is just going to be, we're going to give you a step-by-step procedure. Okay, balancing reactions will give you a step-by-step procedure that makes the reactants and the products equal on each side of the equation. And we do this by assigning those coefficients. We want equal numbers of each element on each side. And so, again, I think I said it in an earlier podcast, we are doing this to satisfy the law of conservation of mass, which says I can't create or destroy mass out of nothing. Or into nothing.
Yeah, into nothing, yeah.
Okay. So, and remember, we've talked about some of these before. A coefficient is just the smallest whole number that can be available.
In front.
That satisfies all the criteria, but the smallest whole number in front of the formula. Okay, it only goes in front. Remember all those subscripts that we have after something? You can't change those. That formula is written already. I can't change that 2 there on that water, but I can add coefficients to get this thing balanced.
That 2 in front is the coefficient.
Okay, so your next box over is characteristics.
Some characteristics, a formula equation. Remember, we're using the correct formula, so we're building off what we learned last vodcast about writing those equations out. We're going to balance the equation by kind of following these steps.
So really make sure, and you may even want to number these steps right here.
1, 2, 3.
And this is kind of the order you'll go in as you balance.
All right, so the easiest thing to balance on a chemical equation is the element that occurs just only one time on both sides of the equation. So you'll start there. And once we do one of these, we'll kind of go through these steps, but here are the steps, first of all. Then 2, you'll start with elements that occur only once. Okay, you'll balance one element at a time. Okay, don't try to balance.
That's kind of an overarching rule.
Right.
You only look at one element
at a time.
Okay, don't ever try to be looking at hydrogens and calciums and oxygens all at the same time, because that's too much stuff to be trying to organize in your brain, and there's too many numbers flying around there. Okay, and you'll see what we mean as we get into it. Just think of one element at a time, balance that one element, and then move on to the next one.
And see where it leaves you. Because most of the time, if you balance that one, other things kind of work out naturally. Then you'll want to balance your polyatomics. Okay, so we'll try to keep those polyatomics together because that makes them a little easier to handle. And then balance hydrogen and oxygen last.
Always leave hydrogen and oxygen.
Usually the hardest, the toughest.
Those are the ones that can occur in multiple places on each side sometimes. Okay, always recount at the end too. It's an important thing to make sure you're right after you think you're done. Recount every element, make sure it's the same on each side. So a couple things to remember. A coefficient in front tells you to multiply each element by that number. So these are just a couple of reminders. That 2 there goes to both elements. 2 hydrogens and 2 chlorines in that case.
2 hydrogen, 2 chlorine.
In that second case, the 2 goes to everything in there. Okay, barium has a 3 after it, but you're also going to multiply that by 2.
And then...
So that gives you 6 bariums.
So that's 2 times 3, that's 6 BAs.
And then phosphate, there's 2 of them, so 4 times 2 is 8.
Yep.
Phosphate. I'm sorry, 4 phosphates. I was thinking of the 4.
Thought that was 8, yeah, the 4 after there.
4 phosphates.
So 2 times 2 is 4 phosphates.
Okay, and so again, if that phosphate PO4, if it's the same on both sides of the equation, we'll just keep it in parentheses, keep it together, and you don't have to break it down into phosphorus and oxygen. Okay, so the totals for the elements on each side must equal. So that's how we're going to show some examples here on the next slide. So Coach Forster, let's balance this top one up here.
So it's kind of helpful to first write out to the side, and on your first couple practice problems, you'll have out to the side all the elements that are in the compound.
Okay, so on the left side, there's 1 barium.
1 barium.
Okay, there are, let's see, sodiums. There are 1 sodium.
1 sodium on the left.
There's 1 chlorine.
1 chlorine.
And there are 2 nitrates.
2 nitrates.
Okay, on the right side, you've got 1 barium. You've got 1 sodium. You've got 2 chlorines. And you've got 1 nitrate.
1 nitrate.
Okay, so you can see already what elements are not balanced. It's chlorine and nitrate. Okay.
Barium's good. Sodium's good. Chlorine and nitrate are not.
Okay, so remember our rules. We're going to look 1 element at a time. Okay, so that's just kind of an overarching rule.
Rule.
Number 2, we're going to look at the elements that only occur once on each side. So do we have any elements that occur twice on each side here?
No.
Every element in this case only occurs once on each side of the equation. So we really don't have that option.
Right.
Okay, just so you know what we're talking about, down here below, you see on this other equation, you see how oxygen occurs in two different places? That's what we mean when we say does it occur more than once. Okay, so back to our top equation. Our second rule says balance. Remember, we're going to leave polyatomics till the end. So we're going to leave that nitrate till the end, and we'll leave hydrogen and oxygens till last, which we don't really have any of those by themselves. So the first one we need to balance here is chlorine. Okay, so we've got 2 chlorines on the right side. We need to get 2 on the left side. So how are we going to do that?
Start off by putting a 2 out there, because a 2 will give me 2 chlorines.
Okay, so we'll put a 2
there.
There. Now that also gave you 2 sodiums on the left, Coach Forster.
Correct. So this changes that number.
Do I need to worry about that?
No, not right now. Not right now.
But again, we now have an unbalanced sodium, so we probably should do that before our polyatomic ion.
Polyatomic.
Okay, so let's balance sodium. We need to put 2 of those on the right side.
Okay, so 2 in front of where sodium is, so that'll give that sodium.
And look what that balanced in the process.
Now I got 2 nitrates instead of 1.
That balanced that for us because, again, that 2 applies to the nitrate as well. So our equation here is same. Balanced.
1, 2, 2, 2. 1, 2, 2, 2. Okay,
and everything is
just
by adding those 2 coefficients. Okay, let's do the bottom example here.
Okay.
I'll read off to you what we have. If we sodium. We have 3 on the left.
Okay.
And we have 2 on the right.
2 on the right.
Okay, phosphate. We have 1 on the left and 1 on the right.
Okay.
Aluminum, we have 2 on the left and 1 on the right. And then sulfate, we have 3 on the left and 1 on the right. So this one could be a little tougher here.
Could be.
Okay, but remember, we're going to leave that sulfate till the end. Does it really matter, Coach Forster, whether we start with sodium or aluminum in this case?
It does not matter.
Doesn't really matter to us. So let's just start with sodium since it's the top on your list. Whoa! Now how do we do this thing where I can't take 2 into 3 here?
No, you can't. So 2 and 3, I can't just change 1 and fix it. So I've got to find a common multiple between the 2.
Right.
So what is a common multiple between 3 and 2?
I think probably 6 would be
6,
a common multiple.
So what do you have to multiply 3 by to
multiply
get 6?
That by 2.
So I'll put a 2 there, so that makes that 6.
Okay.
And then
multiply that one by 3.
Yep. Multiply that one by 3, so that makes that 6.
Okay. Now let's update our list. That also gave us 2 phosphates on the left.
All right, so I'll cross that out. 2.
And that gave us 3 sulfates on the right. So that fixed our sulfates.
So that fixed the sulfates, right?
Okay, so remember, we're going to leave polyatomics
till the end.
Let's do aluminum here.
Okay.
Got 2 on the left and 1 on the right, so let's put it. We need a 2 in front of that one on the right.
That'll donate that to 2
there, and that also gives us
2 phosphates.
2 phosphates.
Fixed
so
it.
6, 2, 2, 3 on my side.
Yep, 6, 2, 2, 3 on my side.
So we are all
balanced
there. So again, the key. I can't stress it enough.
Oh,
Which Forster
lost her.
Messing me up. You have to clear it.
Sorry. But we were done anyway, so.
We were done. You can go back and pause if you need to see that right. We can't stress enough the key. Only worry about one element at a time. Okay? If you're thinking of more than 1 or 2 things, especially as they get more difficult, you're going to have too many numbers flying around in your head and too much to keep straight. Balance one element at a time and then if that causes something else to be unbalanced, then go fix that after you're done with the one you're working on.
Right.
So, good luck.
Yeah.
We'll see you in class if you have trouble.
We'll see you. Bye.